What is up, everybody? How are we doing today? Happy Friday. We're on the road this week, so apologies if sound quality is not perfect. Really looking forward to this week. We've got Roham coming, joining us, going to answer a lot of questions that I'm sure you all have as a continued effort to increase our communication and improve it so that you all know what's coming and can see the roadmap ahead. Some quick notes here. We are going to be touching on a wide range of topics, not as kind of crisp or categorized an agenda as usual, but it should certainly be a very informative and eventful show we've got planned today. We're just going to filibuster here for a quick second, make sure Roham gets situated in here, set up.
I am here. Can you hear me, Jacob?
Can hear you great, Roham. Thanks for joining us. We've got a great turnout of, looks like over 1,000 people in here. So definitely a lot of excitement about this event, and knowing you're the busiest guy in the world, really appreciate you taking some time out of your Friday to join us here.
Yeah, super happy to be here. I think it's long overdue that I jump in one of these sessions. So yeah, thanks for having me.
Perfect. So
Go ahead.
community, as I mentioned, we're going to be touching on a wide range of topics here. And there are no shortage of questions that I'm sure you all have. We're going to get to the questions that were submitted over the last few days in Discord. If there is time at the end, we will go to office hours chat and see what other new questions are coming in. But in the meantime, I think the best place to start would be around some news from earlier this week. Obviously, the Cool Cats Master Challenge wrapped up. And one question we're hearing from the community is, why did we make the decision to give perks to those of the collectors that hold the moments, but not necessarily those that completed the challenge only?
Yeah, I mean, look, as with everything in beta, we're going to be doing a lot of experimentation. But the to be clear, the only way to access any of the sort of Cool Cats Master Challenge benefits is to own and hold all 30 moments. So if someone didn't complete the challenge, they need to go after the challenge and scoop every single moment up from the marketplace. And what this does is transfers the utility into the moments, right, into the collection itself, and makes it transferable so that, I mean, if you think about it, we've talked about this internally. Cool Cats, I think, is the top shot Soho House. That's what we're trying to do here. The coolest membership ticket in sort of digital basketball fandom, and everyone that completed the challenge is in it by default. And if anyone sells their challenge moments, if no one sells their challenge moments, then that's sort of the total set of members, right, of kind of Cool Cats. And if people do sell their moments, then that gives an opportunity for other NBA fans to have that same access to me, to the NBA players we're going to be bringing in. And I think that's a good thing. It means that a real fan who missed out on the challenge can buy in by paying, market rate on the moments and having to buy every single one, including the reward. I'm very confident that just like any club, the Cool Cats the Cool Cats Club will be better if it's alive and if it's something that people who really want in can have the ability to get in. Whether it's today or 6 months or 6 years down the line, when sort of it's a little at every level it'll be a little more clear. Okay, what actually comes with being a member of this group. So that's sort of what we were going for. It's about embedding utility into the moments, and I think that's quite a powerful thing. That's not necessarily the only thing we will do. And in terms of for people that did complete the challenge, all of that is on chain, totally visible for all time. And so when it comes to that club, the club, you could imagine real OGs. You can tell apart who completed the challenge versus who bought in yesterday versus who bought in 5 years ago, whatever it is, when we're sort of in the future. So you can imagine different badging and others. And then because that information is public on the blockchain, you could imagine even other companies, not just us with UFC or other future products, but other companies using the sort of Cool Cats Master Challenge hodlers as the kind of gold standard for active collectors that hold on to their collections. And so if they're launching new products, that seems to me like the best group to launch it with and test it with. So yeah, that's kind of a little bit of our thinking around the Master Challenge.
I think it's super important to emphasize to the community that just because we're teasing out what this club means, I think that there's no urgency for us to deliver this month necessarily, as long as we have our plan, which we do, to make this, as you said, Roham, the Soho house of the Top Shot collector experience. So if you have membership to this Cool Cats Lounge, whatever we end up calling it, it will have residual perks long term. So appreciate you shedding light there. We're going to just move along here. We've got plenty of topics to cover. One follow-up question in the theme of Cool Cats is, what are the plans we are thinking about to incentivize collectors to hold challenge moments beyond reward being dished out? And I think Cool Cats, you just touched on a little bit of it. Do you envision that being something we continue to double down on long term?
Yeah, I think maybe not in the exact same way, but definitely challenge completion and sort of holding on to those rewards is going to be a component of. It's going to be a component of collector score for one thing, and then we may do a lot more reusing of challenge moments. And I also think there's a good time and place for master challenges. Cool Cats was a really good learning experience for us, but there's a lot more we can do here. For example, in series 3 or series 5 or series 10, it could be a very cool, interesting way to highlight what's sort of come before, to have a challenge that also includes moments from past series. And so there's that component. There's a collector score component. There's a utility component. There's the idea that challenges are thematic. Everything we've done, whether it's a challenge or a pack, etc., there's a theme behind it. There's a sort of selection. There's a narrative. There's a thought process that we haven't yet told that story in a complete way. And I think that once we get better at telling those stories, there's going to be people that are going to want to go back and relive some of those moments, some of those themes. And I think that there's the value to a holder is that they're gonna and eventually there'll be time component, right, in terms of you'll be able to see in your collection whether it's through, and I'll touch on some questions that some other topics we might get into, whether it's through mechanisms like staking, where you're sort of saying I'm locking this up for a certain period, or it's just simply you've had it in your collection, you've made showcases with it, you've showed it off, there's many views on that particular page. There may be additional benefits, but basically we're going to count it as engagement because it's what gives the platform power. So that's a few sort of smatterings of things we've talked about, but immediately you're going to see the impact in collector score. And pretty soon after, you'll sort of start seeing in future series, tie-ins that reuse moments and give people who have completed the collection a leg up, and potentially some social status in the community.
We're gonna move along, and we're gonna start talking about some future features. There are a smattering of questions here, so we're gonna touch on them. Some are a little bit more inside baseball, if you will, for the true kind of decentralized heads in the community, and then some are more tailored toward NBA diehards. But let's just start with the first question I see here. Are there plans to use smart contracts with moments going forward?
Well, I think the reality is every single Top Shot moment is already backed by a smart contract. That the smart contract is what determines the rarity. The smart contract is what sort of locks in the set, and the it also gives the transferability, and all of these sort of rules are baked into the smart contract. So that's one component of it. The other component is that on flow, it's really easy for contracts to layer on top of each other and to extend each other. And so for you could imagine us as Dapper Labs adding more functionality, whether it's to existing moments or to new moments down the line, moments that transmute and actually change based on what happens to the player, or what happens at in the series, or whatever it is. You can sort of imagine that we don't have anything imminent, but the setup and the platform, the sort of framework, is already there. And then the other thing is, you can imagine other developers, especially once we open up and let people actually withdraw Top Shots and access a non-custodial ecosystem, building all kinds of other tooling on top of the same Top Shot assets. And so, whether it's smart contracts to add functionality, whether it's an ability to, for example, autograph a particular moment, so an athlete can actually sign an NFT with a blockchain transaction personally, or whether it's things like adding the sort of real world triggers can happen. And the other way we can sort of do real world triggers, of course, through badging on the website, where you can just take publicly available information, and whether or not it's on the blockchain, it's because it's publicly available. Anybody would know, hey, who's rookie of the year, etc. And so we've already started sort of talking about what would it look like to have the site sort of be dynamic and reflect the dynamics of basketball and of the season as it ongoes. So smart contracts are sort of one component of that, and and maybe the most important component. But I think there's a lot that can layer on top that doesn't even have anything to do with blockchain.
Super interesting. Thank you for sharing. Moving along to one of the most frequently asked questions and topics that we hear about in the community is the topic of Hardcourt. Of course, one of the most exciting components to the entire Top Shot experience. From my understanding, nothing is super imminent here. I'd love to kind of pass it to you and ask the questions directly from the community's mouth. How has testing been going? Are there any updates that we can share?
Yeah, so for everybody for whom that term might be new, so Hardcourt is the NBA mobile game, and the idea, it's a mobile game. Anybody can go on the App Store, download it, load up their moments, and start playing with friends. And it's to me, what I see is like the real kind of catalyst that takes lets sort of anybody, whether they sort of know collecting yet or not, be able to kind of just get started. And it gives people a social context that's sort of more of a in-game Fortnite like social context to show off what they have, and challenge their friends, etc. It's super important that we get it right, and our perspective is we're going to take our time to get it right. So no real updates in terms of timing, but I wanted to kind of zoom out and provide that a little bit of perspective for folks. So and as the Top Shot economy itself evolves, there's things we have to loop back and learnings we have to incorporate, and the bigger the collectible economy grows, the more important it is that the game really is it's not just an additional thing on the side, but really it's a sort of foundational engine, and so we're going to take our time. I've said this before on Discord, so hopefully it's nothing new, but it'll, and the testing will first, the thing that's happening now is actually undergoing with people who don't have any moments and who don't actually know what the collector economy is. And that's the first bar to cross. Can we convert folks that are real mainstream, and then we're going to release it in this sort of very early access mode to existing collectors, and test, iterate. So it's going well, but lots of work to do.
Understood. Moving along here, other than Hardcourt, can you reveal any other utility that is sure to be coming to Moments? Certainly lots of ideas floated on Twitter and on Discord, but are there things that you can say with certainty that you anticipate in the year 2021 with these Moments?
Yeah, I mean, the thing you're seeing immediately that we're going to roll out in the next few weeks is the sort of digital membership in Discord and that sort of thing. And obviously, Cool Cats will sort of be the pinnacle of it in a sense, but I think it's going to make the actual Discord experience so much smoother and cleaner. Just to make sure every single person in that channel has 1 or 3 NBA Top Shot moments, and having a sort of onboarding experience that takes people through getting their first pack, which gives them access to Discord and sort of plugs them into the wider community. So that's sort of imminent. The things we've also talked about and are sort of maybe relatively close behind are merchandise drops, access to special events, whether it's digital or as sort of the world comes back online, or maybe the United States comes back into sort of having physical events, actual access into sort of real world activities. And eventually the goal and the thing that teams and team owners get so excited about, and why so many of them are investors in our company and direct sort of stakeholders in what we do, in addition to our partnership with the NBA, is we want your collections to matter when you show up to a real life game. And so there's obviously details around privacy, information sharing, data sharing, all this stuff. But you'll see us experiment with teams relatively soon. And in just full disclosure, it's not really a priority from a sort of product standpoint, because mainstream, like in real world activations, are likely to bring very mainstream people, and the product is just not ready for very mainstream people. We don't yet have even proper email drips, or we don't have the ability to send you a push notification. We just don't have this sort of it's just not ready yet. And so it hasn't been a priority, but we're going to do some experiments to show both the vision and kind of get people to see where we're going with it, and also to sort of show our access and just how excited teams and owners and folks are for bringing the engagement level of Top Shot into their arenas, and they want to know who their top collectors are. If you hold $100,000 worth of particular team's moments, they want to treat you well when you show up to the game, because you've already proven that you're a super fan. You've already proven that you're a stakeholder of that group. And so that's a big that's something we want to kind of tease and show, but it's a very big sort of medium term focus. The other maybe slightly longer term thing, because we have to kind of the technology is there, but we have to enable it, is to, when people can withdraw their Top Shots and out of the kind of custodial bubble, and take it into sort of the non-custodial world that's being built on Flow, that unlocks a whole new sort of category of utility. Obviously, people can build games and other kinds of sort of actual consumer experiences on top, but you've already seen, or I don't know if the Top Shot community has seen, but we've seen people are building lending protocols, borrowing, collateralization, fractionalization, things that you can do with your assets and collection without actually selling anything, but potentially generating some value, potentially share or splitting or fractionalizing with friends, or lending, borrowing for challenges, whatever the sort of utility might be. It's something that once there are proper inroads and outroads out of the Dapper bubble, it'll kind of mushroom from there, and people will come up with stuff that we haven't even talked about or thought about.
Super exciting. When we talk about kind of one of the big things we hear from the community is, what is the plan to expand the collector base? Lots of questions about our general marketing strategy. Of course, I think the first place to start is just kind of the all-star team of marketers we've assembled, but where we stand on marketing and the general plans around expanding the collector base.
Yeah, I don't know if you're just breaking up for me, but you're breaking up a little bit there. But I think I heard sort of the end of the question, which is just plans around marketing and expanding the collector base. I mean, look, like I kind of said earlier, a lot of our focus is still going to be on testing, gathering data, and targeting kind of the early adopter set. So, doing things on social media, doing things with athletes on social media, maybe things with teams on social media. And we really want to sort of run tests, gather data, run more tests, run tests, gather data, run more tests. We've done a little bit of paid marketing, but again, sort of more to establish a baseline than anything else. And I think that the best, I saw some conversations about this on Twitter, and I sort of, I was liking those tweets very heavily, in the sense of like, the what we got to do in a very real way is explain more of our vision, explain more of what's coming down the pipe, and explain the feedback that we're already taking into account, things around clear content roadmaps, restrictions on sort of pack drops and tweaks around the collector score, et cetera. And if we get those things right, we already have an awesome. There's 1,000 people on this one Discord office hours, right? We have a group of folks that are creating content, making podcasts, some sense of building businesses on top of Top Shot. And so let's kind of go back to our roots a little bit, strengthen our core, run all of these tests, because we got to get the websites got to convert better. We got to have better email drips and leading people from one step to the next, not just having a packs page that just says all sold out. So you know all this, but I think doing right by the people that got us here, and also kind of just communicating more about the things we're already doing, and the fixes that are already coming, is going to be a big part of just setting ourselves upright for throwing more marketing dollars at things, getting the NBA more actively involved. I mean, you saw a retweet that they did recently, and that these are small things, but they're going to compound, and I think the goal is to build a sustainable engine.
Good. And apologies if my connection is cutting in and out on the road, actually dealing with a Wi-Fi snafu right now. So hopefully the connection perseveres throughout. Apologies, community. We will get this right once I'm back home. But moving ahead here, how soon, if ever, can we anticipate bulk buying coming to Top Shot?
Yeah, this is a question I wanted to talk about, just because the other thing that comes up sometimes, but didn't come up in the questions, was the lowest ask buying problem. So for those of you that don't know what that is, when a moment goes up for well below low ask, often there's lots of people trying to buy it at the exact same time, and there's some people that use these alert services that actually, may mean they can move super quickly. When we find bots, we suspend those accounts, etc. But there is a solution there to that problem, and really what we got to and to enable multiple things to be purchased at the same time, we have to solve that issue, because what happens if you select 5 things and then one of the things you selected has already been purchased by somebody else? And we can't really do what companies like Shopify or others do, which is just set it aside for you for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever it is, because that leads to abuse of the system. Anyone can just come and sort of lock the asset up. And so we're working through a bunch of different solutions to actually make it fun for humans to kind of compete for the lowest price asset in any particular listing. I don't have a solution to share. Actually open to feedback, but we got to solve that issue first for individual buys before we go to multiple buys. And offers are a part of this, and there's been questions around that. Of course, offers are an important part of a marketplace. They're not the sort of top of funnel new user experience part of a marketplace, and so that's one reason they're not in the product yet. But I would say those two pieces are probably a little more important and maybe foundational to being able to have things like bulk purchasing.
Right. We actually have our economist who just joined the team, who has been an active collector on Top Shop beforehand, and he is pinging me to share and re-emphasize to the community, as you just said, Roham, the concept of bulk buying will likely only come after we have a thorough bid or offer system that we are proud of and think will help kind of turn that bulk buying opportunity into a smoother collector experience long term. So shout out to our economist for the assist there. But I think that whole concept is super interesting. Moving along here, we're about halfway through this session. We still have plenty of questions to get to. So the next question that we wanted to touch on is staking rewards and Dapper's plans, Flow's plans around staking and integrating that into the collector experience.
Yeah, so I kind of alluded to this earlier, like staking. Obviously, staking for for people that aren't familiar with the term, is sort of the idea of locking your assets up for a certain period of time and earning some return or benefit from it. And we're obviously, you can do a lot of you can do staking of Flow tokens directly, and that's part of what secures the Flow network. But as it comes to Top Shot, I think the concept of, hey, I'm putting my moments, I don't know if it would be formally staking. It might be something like, hey, I'm putting them in a showcase or loaning them out to a gallery or whatever it may be. And you could imagine that giving benefits to within Top Shot, sort of collector score, Dapper credits, access to pack drops, access to new content, etc. And yeah, you could imagine that also being plugged into the wider Flow ecosystem. Whether it's I think we would start with other NFT ecosystems. Anything Flow token related goes through a strong legal filter, so I won't give any sort of specifics on that yet. What I can say is Flow itself is a network designed for users. It's a network designed for consumers, not speculators. And that means it's a network designed for the people using the products on top of Flow, as well as the developers building those products. And so the Flow ecosystem team, their sort of mandate is to figure out how to distribute Flow to the people that will use it, not for speculation, but for real things on the network, whether that is staking, running nodes, voting on governance proposals, building experiences, launching new content, an artist, for example, creating new NFTs that are on chain, or playing new games or apps that are coming out, testing them, providing feedback to developers, all of this stuff. So like I said, it's everything goes through everything needs to be done at the right time and sort of with the right legal and compliance steps. But it's it's an exciting area for what's to come.
Awesome. Going back to kind of utility around moments and engagement, interactivity in the community, one question we saw is, are there any plans to bring daily tasks, daily quests, daily activity to the website? Something like quizzes, common challenges, pick'ems, more team quests, things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you've seen us play around with this with the team quests, things that hopefully people can do without buying anything or just with, buying a couple of things. And whether it's trivia, quizzes, and things that maybe let NBA fans show off their skills, and maybe therefore get special access or be asked for their opinion more frequently, whatever it is. That's absolutely on the radar. The reality, though, and I'll kind of continue going back to maybe sharing not necessarily every individual feature we're working on, but more how we're prioritizing. And something like this is more of a retention reactivation feature, something that kind of keeps people coming back, rather than helps people find that magic up front, or solves kind of the kind of big economic issues that sort of foundational issues like collector score and others that we're working on. So we'll be looking at it. Absolutely, I think it's very straightforward. Things like this are well tested and understood by other in other games and consumer products. And so it'll be more and more. And by the way, I don't think it'll even be daily. It'll be multiple times a day. We see active collectors spend a ton of time on the site, and we want them to sort of be able to engage and express themselves in different ways. And I mean, you've heard me talk about also social features into Top Shot itself. That's also not a near-term priority, but if you think about it, we are the best social network for NBA fans, because it's real skin in the game and real kind of real NBA stakeholders. So that's the perspective with which we're looking at it. But short term priority is really, really hyper focused on the economic things, on the new user experience, on kind of the daily activity as it relates to understanding what Top Shot is, how to get started, how to get your first pack, build your first collection by buying things from the marketplace, and really then level up to making bigger and bigger decisions on how you allocate resources. Did we lose Jacob?
Really cool. And certainly community, you saw even just this week, right? The NBA working with us, retweeting, getting collectors to playoffs. So certainly more of that type of stuff to come. Moving along here, this is probably one of the biggest hot button issues in the community right now, and something that you just kind of touched on in passing, but we'll come back to it. On Twitter, you mentioned that economic fixes were a top priority for the next 2 months. Can you expand a little bit on that and where your head is?
Yeah. Well, I mean, really the two things that I talked about are the things we're going to start with, and then a huge backlog of things beyond that. So the two things are, one, collector score and pack drops, and then second, sort of challenges and quests. And in terms of the collector score, just to give a little bit of more zoomed out framing to sort of how we're thinking about things. Pack drops are the tentpole events of Top Shot. They're super exciting. They bring a lot of the active user base back, especially when they're rare and legendary drops, or when we allowed anybody to be eligible for them. But the reality is that they do introduce new supply to the market, and in many cases, buying a pack is something that you can then you can take the assets that you get inside the pack and sell them, and sometimes for a profit. And so for us, what's really important is that the economy and the user experience is balanced at every step. And We do want a new user who walks in off the street to be able to get their first pack, their first base pack. But we want to make sure that there's a laddering system where collectors have to be active in the ecosystem, have to hold on to and build collections and show them off, and that's how they get access to ongoing, rare and then eventually legendary and up drops. And so collector score is sort of the first way that we're kind of creating that path for a new user to become a engaged collector, and therefore get access to higher end pack drops. But the important part is we need to make accommodations for marketplace spend. We've heard loud and clear that there's been collectors that joined us and spent a lot of dollars in the marketplace because packs weren't available during that February March period, or January February period. And now, because their collections are smaller, they may not have access to these pack drops. So we're making accommodations like that. We're going to be looking at the recency of marketplace spend as well, so to make sure the focus is on activity rather than sort of grandfathering in a past experience. And then the second sort of big category is challenges and quests. So I think everybody on this call will be familiar with the economic impact of challenges, where they're exciting. You get this access to what is usually a super is maybe the most interesting moment or player of the set. But the reality is that when everybody has to collect the exact same set of moments, whether they want them or not, to get the one moment that they do want, that creates a lot of economic, maybe unexpected or undesired consequences. They are expected, but they're hard to manage for, especially for a new collector. And so price ends up going really high when everybody rushes in to buy the exact same set of things, and then after the challenge is over, those things, maybe because if people don't want them, or they want to liquidate and create Dapper balance for the next challenge, the next pack drop, it creates sort of too much sell pressure all at the same time. So we're addressing that in multiple ways. I mean, one is we're creating new utility for those moments. So then that creates buy demand. It creates the buy demand at the same time as that sell pressure, because some people want to sell and liquidate and get into the next drop, whereas others want to buy and get access to that liquidity, to that utility, be part of that group, etc. Even if they didn't want to take the risk of, hey, am I going to get a good serial number or not in the challenge? So that's sort of one approach, and that's what you saw us try with the Cool Cats Master Challenge. And then the other approach is the quests. And so instead of saying, hey, go get these exact 9 moments and you'll get this 10th one, we'll say, you pick which dunk you want to put in here. You pick which 3 moments from whatever team you want to put in here. And so because everybody can pick the moments that they want and that they identify with, and they might already have in their collection, there's much less of a skewing in the economy. And then the eventual set that people collect is something that's personal to them because they made it. And we haven't really talked about this, but eventually we want to be able to have people put sets and then be able to sell sets and show that, hey, I completed this challenge or this quest, and I never broke my set. I kept it as is for 10 years, and now you can buy that sort of original collection that I put together as it was originally put together. And maybe that has some benefits down the line. So that's kind of how we've been thinking about it. And like I said, there's a huge backlog of other ideas. Maybe closest to it is more benefits for high marketplace spenders. People that maybe go in and say, maybe they don't participate in pack drops because they want to pick out exactly what they want. We're kind of playing around with ideas, credit back for spend, etc. That makes sense here.
Yeah, really exciting stuff. Excited about all of that. Community, I see in the comment section a few kind of clarifiers around collector score. Roham just touched on it, but one thing that I think is really imperative for us to communicate to you all is that by no means do we think that collector score today is a finished product. We will continue to tinker, iterate, optimize, and upgrade and take community feedback into account. I've seen some really great ideas since last night, even around ways that we can make it even better. So I think we're definitely on the right track and taking steps in the right direction. I don't want the community to think that we are looking at collector score as a finished product today, because there are certainly more things coming. I want to continue this conversation and maybe veer into more miscellaneous topics. So one that has been frequently asked in recent weeks, even months, is the concept of burning moments. So far, I have publicly said that it is not on our immediate radar, with no immediate plans to enable that type of a feature. But is this something that we would be open to in the future? And where do we stand on burning moments in general?
Yeah, I'm glad this came up because I've seen some sort of vibe out there that we'll never burn moments or Top Shot is against burning moments. That's absolutely not the case. In fact, Cadence, the programming language for the Flow blockchain, literally supports burning at the programming language level. Like Flow in Ethereum, you can't really destroy an NFT. What you have to do is send it to basically send it to an address that nobody can control, and so it's sort of you're basically sending them into purgatory, and they sort of continue living on the blockchain forever, but nobody can move them, and so effectively they're destroyed. But on Flow, it's actually possible, and this is a feature of built into sort of the core of the programming language, the blockchain, that people can destroy their own assets because they control it fully. Now, in the Top Shot of today, because everything is in these fully custodial Dapper wallets, the Dapper hasn't built in that functionality where you just press a button and it burns it. But eventually Dapper will have non-custodial functionality. Users will be able to withdraw their moments. So burning is supported at the protocol level. But for us, in terms of like economy design and within Top Shot, I do think burning will play an important role. We've talked about trade tickets, not exactly the same thing. I do think trade tickets will play a very important role as well. But burning in Top Shot will, I think, inevitably happen. Now the question is when, because it's really short-term, long-term thinking, right? Like if you're in Top Shot in year 2, you say, well, hey, prices dropped. We need to burn moments so that supply is lessened so that prices can go up. And I get it. But if you're thinking about 10 years, 20 years ahead, I don't think we know enough today to say whether 15,000 or 35,000 or 50,000 or 100,000 is a little or a lot. Like we're in year 2 of a product that I think is much bigger than trading cards or video games, or it's more on the order of social media, where every single NBA fan should at least have a bunch of moments in their pocket because of their favorite team or of their favorite player, because it's just so easy. You don't actually, there's not clutter in your room. It's literally it's your social profile. And so if you're a self-respecting NBA fan, you need to have at least one moment from your top player. Like that's and there's a billion NBA fans. And so I just, I always think about, looking back at a decision, 5 years, 10 years from now, and what am I going to think? And I feel like we'll think we were crazy in year 2 to be burning these sort of super historic assets. And so that's why we haven't done it yet. But it's very much it's literally feature of the programming language. It's absolutely something that I think plays an important role in the economy long term. I just think it's way too early.
Yeah, understood. And I think to that point, we saw some submitted videos from community members. Rock Doggy, shout out to you, going to the Charlotte Hornets arena a few weeks ago and just asking fans in the hallways, have you heard of NBA Top Shot? Do you know what Top Shot is? And the overwhelming sentiment is no, not yet. So when we're looking at kind of chartering this out, and as you were touching on earlier, Roham, we feel like there are so many kind of low-hanging fruit optimizations to make for a new user experience. especially around kind of email drips and tailoring that collector's first experience on Top Shot to ensure that they understand all of the different opportunities that come with being a Top Shot collector. So a lot of this will come in due community. We appreciate your patience. Okay, moving along here, we have a new question, or actually we touched on this a little earlier here, but just to reiterate, a question from the community. It's my understanding that you have recently hired an economist. How have they settled in? What about other recent staff hires?
Yeah, I think really well. I mean, to your point, he's been super actively involved in many of our recent decisions. He is an NBA Top Shot former collector, and comes from the finance world, but also has experience with other collectible markets. And look, like, he's not by himself, right? Like, we have one of our game designers is a Stanford PhD, taught anthropology at Stanford. And built video games for 10 years, and now all he does is graph Top Shot marketplace movements and sort of who's selling, what are they doing with it, what are they, all of these sort of movements, how old are the accounts, etc. We have folks that manage economy for CCP, so EVE Online, and one of the largest, maybe the largest open economy game that's not on blockchain. And then obviously, I think CryptoKitties was sort of the biggest training ground and learning experience. So I think the team is absolutely fantastic. We are thinking long term. And there are always external factors, right? That whether it's crypto or the readiness of the product. But our economist is settling really well. It's directly related to us being confident enough to say, season 3 will have tight content roadmap and restrictions or both guidelines, as well as, we just want to be open with our heuristics. We want to explain our thinking. We want to sort of give the community the tools to almost yourselves predict, hey, what is Top Shot going to do? Because what have they told us that they would do in these sorts of situations? So even when something unexpected comes up, the community should be able to sort of almost predict or guess, hey, this is what the reaction is going to be. So yeah, really excited to have him on board, and I think you'll see an acceleration of improvements next 3 to 6 months across the board.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off their community, I have been interacting with our economist, and he will be providing us from time to time kind of economy notes that I can provide as updates as a part of our office hours going forward. So that's something to look forward to. Nothing for today, of course, but can definitely testify to Roham that our team is world-class in that regard and scaling up to continuously put the collector minds first. Moving ahead here, what was the topic du jour for seemingly months, no longer the top issue in the community, but collectors generally have this shared sentiment. Being able to manually activate KYC or identity checks is great, but for withdrawals, is the current expected time considered normal by your team, or are you actively seeking to improve it?
Look, I mean, if you remember, 4 months ago, we said stability, support, and withdrawals, right? And the site was going down every time we had a rush in traffic. We were 60 days, 70 days deep in our support queues. I mean, that's terrible. And withdrawals were it was just an impossible backlog. Now we have I think over 250,000 collectors with access to withdrawals. And we just heard yesterday at all hands, 95% of withdrawals are processed within 4 days or less. So the 5% is still too slow. I want you to hear it from me. The 4 days is still too slow. What I want is 90% instant, right? Like whether if you meet the bar, you should be able to get a almost real-time answer. maybe 9% within the 4 days that we're we're talking about today. And then maybe 1% can take longer and sort of have escalated and things like that. And look, there will always be a period where if someone comes in off the street and we have no information about them, they'll have to wait a certain period or get to a certain collector score or something before sort of triggering that ability to withdraw. But I think that's fair, since we're not a why would you come in if you're not going to be sort of engaging with the product? But everybody will have access to withdrawals, and everybody, almost everybody, I think, with that has enough Dapper credit is getting it, and everybody that has it is getting super rapid or increasingly rapid responses. So no, we're not fully happy, but I think we've made a lot of progress. The other thing is we want more withdrawal options, right? Today, you can do wire transfer in US. And I believe we just enabled Canada and the UK, so you can get it to your bank account. But we want wire transfer all over the world. In the US, we want ACH bank transfer, so that's both cheaper and faster, I believe. We want people to be able to withdraw to their credit card. I don't think this is imminent. Well, either the credit card or, eventually, why not be able to withdraw to a PayPal account? I will eventually withdraw to a Flow wallet, withdraw in Flow, withdraw in Bitcoin. The other thing, we really want you to be able to do a lot of different things with your Dapper balance. So new products launching on Flow, things like Genies, will be enabled within the Dapper ecosystem, and so you can use your Dapper wallet. You can use your Dapper credits, log into Genies, be a part of that ecosystem, or other Dapper Labs products, obviously, as they roll out. But also our long-term goal is to let people keep their Dapper balance in whatever currency they want to keep it. So instead of having to withdraw it in order to buy Bitcoin or Ethereum or Ether or Flow, you should be able to do that right within the interface, and be able to store your balance in whatever currency you want to store your balance. So, the focus for us is hyper speedy in and out, so that people can feel comfortable, treating it as it's your money after all. And as we get withdrawals faster and faster, and as we expand to more and more people, I can tell you the percentage of accounts actually withdrawing is at an all-time low, and there's there's a huge amount of Dapper balance just sort of sitting there, waiting for the right time to engage.
Yeah, really, really great info there. I know the community is really excited about some of those things that will be coming eventually. I am sensitive to time. We've got about 7 minutes here, so I'm going to try to rapid fire through as many of these remaining questions that we have, and we'll take it from there. So next question I see is, have you thought about having a study group of employees who can actively own, buy, and sell moments in the marketplace, specifically for the purpose of being an internal focus group to help provide insights about the marketplace in real time with unbiased feedback that could help improve it?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll do kind of formal announcement around this, but we brought on board a chief legal officer and a chief compliance officer now. Both of them have served in those roles for large, successful, in some cases, publicly traded companies before. So they're hitting the ground running. They're figuring out the right policies for us here to protect the community, but got to let our team have a tight pulse on what's going on. Got to let us be part of the fray and kind of see things from the ground floor, but in a way that's hyper transparent. And I think the blockchain actually makes that easier. It sort of means that that everything is 100% visible for everyone to see. So definitely working on that.
Awesome. Moving ahead to the next question. Would Dapper ever consider distributing a portion of the 5% fee to the moment owners?
Yes.
Great.
I mean, I don't want to say anything specific, but yes. And by the way, anything we do here is going to be retroactive. So any dollars spent today would be eligible. And collector score is likely to have something to do with it. I mean, the idea is that, just like many marketplaces or exchanges, the more you transact, the more you and probably it'll be based on that marketplace spend. Then you should potentially receive a portion of the credit, up to the 5% back in sort of credits that you can then spend on other moments or otherwise. So definitely working through it. Anything we do will be retroactive, so there's no sort of need to wait until that system is in place. But we want to kind of really make sure we're sort of battening down the hatches before we announce the specifics, so that we can be as detailed as possible, and then lock it in stone as much as possible.
Perfect. Gonna try to choose the good ones here, knowing we're short on time. Can we expect short-term roadmaps to be more set in stone in the future? Is this something that the community can expect? And if not, what will be done about changing roadmaps for the future?
Yeah, I don't know how to answer that quickly. So I guess the quick answer is, yes. Well, the reality is, look, on content, yes, we want to share more roadmaps, more of the internal rules, the limits we're using, the sort of economic framework we're using, and like I said, that should almost give people the tools to, like, we already have economists in the community, and so it's sort of, that'll give them the tools to kind of analyze what we're doing and all that stuff. So we're going to do that. But when it comes to product features, like even internally at Dapper Labs, we want to give the team the freedom and the flexibility to iterate and test things and kill features and ship things early, and so there's I'll never be saying, hey, in March 1st we're going to launch this feature, March 15th we're going to launch that feature. What we're going to try and do is actually be more communicative on what are our priorities. And so 2-3 months ago we said stability, support, withdrawals. Right now we're saying economy fixes and a new user experience. Eventually that'll change to saying, well, we want to focus on collector experience and we want to hear from y'all. And actually we do want to start hearing from you guys on, hey, what kind of benefits do you want to receive if you show up to an arena and someone knows that you're the biggest collector of that evening? Would you want to get called out on the Jumbotron? Would you, you know what I mean? Like, would you want to get free popcorn? Like, what's the do you want an upgrade to your ticket? Like, there's so many special merchandise, sort of access to individuals, whatever it is. There's we want to hear from people, and the focus will shift towards, well, how do we supercharge that fan experience? Because Top Shot is not about blockchain or NFTs. Top Shot is not about it's not just a collectible. Top Shot is the center of the NBA fan experience, and so how do we really kind of lean into that? Is not the immediate focus, but will be sort of the next focus.
I'm going to let you out after 2 more questions. Last 2 questions, community. The first one of the 2 is, what are some data points or concepts that reaffirm your belief that Top Shot will be a generational product?
Oof. Another hard question to answer quickly, but look, like, to me, it's just, you look at the building blocks. So what are the building blocks of Top Shot? Well, there's collecting, which has been around since the early days of humanity, right? The first things we carried on ourselves as like a nomadic culture were things that were collectibles, right? Things that we used for self-expression, necklaces we hung around our necks, like that kind of thing. And that eventually became first forms of money, whatever it is. Collecting is a deep part of human nature. It hasn't fully crossed into the digital realm because the software, the technology to create digital assets that were tradable didn't exist until Bitcoin, right? And the technology to create unique digital assets that are tradable didn't exist until CryptoKitties. And the technology to create unique digital assets that are tradable at scale with millions of users didn't exist until NBA Top Shot and Flow. And so that's one kind of cornerstone. And then the other is highlights. The thing that we have picked is the center of it today, is the center of a sports fan's experience, right? More people are experiencing the sports that they love through highlights than even through live games, or even watching games on TV. And so those are, you think about a multi-hundred thousand year behavior that we're tapping into, and then you talk about sort of the the present day, where everybody's on Instagram and TikTok and Twitter talking about highlights, retweeting highlights, and we're sort of packaging those things up together. What else would you want to collect? Why wouldn't you want your collection to be alive and to be the atomic unit of the thing you're a fan of?
Awesome.
I'm sure there's a handful
Last,
already. I know
last but not least, I'm hearing some feedback on the other end. So last but not least, before we let you out of here, final question I'm seeing. Are there any details we can share about the length of our NBA license agreement?
We don't want to scoop ourselves. We want to reveal details in a proper at the proper time with the proper press and all that stuff. And the time we want to do more press is once the product is ready for kind of another wave of mainstream marketing. I mean, the last wave kind of was fully organic, but what I can say, and this is sort of more of a insider kind of community thing than sort of official confirmation of anything, is I did share a cryptic tweet to someone asking about this, and the tweet suggested that we've already secured what we wanted here, and that we are waiting for the right time to announce. And I think collectors are going to be very happy about some of the specifics. And we're hard at work. It's obviously we're sort of working on the technology and the product, but the business dynamics here are as important as anything else, and we're protecting your rights, we're protecting your purchases, and I think we're doing a great job.
Roham, I just want to thank you on behalf of the entire community, knowing how busy you are, taking some time out of your Friday, fresh off of a long day of travel for you, to take some time and chat with us here. Community, I'm sure that there were ample number of breadcrumbs and hints that you can all kind of speculate on and enjoy, and surely tons of really exciting features still to come. But again, Roham, just thanks again for taking some time out of your Friday, and this was as enlightening as ever, and looking forward to all that's to come.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Super good to be here, and I'll be back.
Perfect. All right, community, we will be doing this again next week. Stay tuned. Potentially more guests from the Dapper Labs team coming on to office hours in the next few weeks or so. Of course, it's going to be hard to follow up, Roham, but we'll try our best. And in the meantime, stay tuned. We have our next playoff show coming on Tuesday. There will be a giveaway of a holo icon drop. Of course, before that, community, very important, work your way into eligibility for our premium pack drop on Monday. And of course, please don't forget, reserve your playoff packs today. The queue will open for those playoff packs next Friday. We're talking game winners. We're talking potentially game sevens. We'll see if the Clippers can squeak one out tonight and push that series to 7. Needless to say, if you are an NBA diehard fan, you can think of the specific moments that will make it into this drop. No shortage of theatrics from Trae Young, no shortage of theatrics from Chris Middleton, right? There's so many great moments that will be in these packs. So if you haven't yet already, go to NBATopShop.com, reserve your pack today. That release will happen next Friday. And of course, before then, we are having premium packs, NBA playoff show, a lot of exciting stuff in the works. And until then, we'll talk soon. Community, take care, and have a great weekend. Enjoy the NBA action. A hot take of the day. I got Nets winning tomorrow, and I've got the Clips taking this series to 7. So stay tuned. Lots of great stuff to come, and thanks again. Bye.